William Powell, before 1586 January 1623, was an early Virginia colonist, landowner, militia officer and member of the 1st Virginia House of Burgesses in 1619. He was one of the two representatives of James City County, Virginia. Birth, settlement in Virginia, House of Burgesses. Sources conflict as to whether William Powell was born in 1577 or 1585 or whether these were the years of birth of one or two other men of the same name. Although his date of birth is uncertain, the colonist William Powell obviously was born in England. William Powell, described as a gentleman, arrived in the 3rd supply mission of 9 ships, which brought additional settlers and some supplies to the surviving colonists at Jamestown, Virginia in 1609. Another source states that the records of the Virginia Company showed that William Powell, a subscriber of the company, came to Virginia in 1611 with Lieutenant Governor Sir Thomas Gates aboard the Sea Venture. These statements are not entirely incompatible. The small ships of the 3rd supply mission arrived in Jamestown in 1609 and Powell, who is identified as being in Jamestown before May 1610, must have been on one of those ships. The Sea Venture, with Sir Thomas Gates and other prominent passengers, was beached in Bermuda after being caught in a hurricane and separated from the other ships. The surviving passengers did not arrive in Jamestown until May 1610, after being stranded in Bermuda for 42 weeks. They had to build 2 small vessels from remains of the Sea Venture and cedar from the island in order to complete their journey. On February 9, 1610, the acting governor Captain John Percy sent Ensign Powell and Ensign Waller to capture, or kill if necessary, Watch-in-Chopunk, the chief of the Paspahagan, a sub-chief or tributary of the Powhatan. The chief had been harassing and even killing colonists. He even had tried to kill Captain John Smith during the previous year, but Smith subdued him and took him prisoner, only to have him later escape. Finding they could not capture the strong Watch-in-Chopunk, Powell killed him with a sword. Lieutenant Puttock, who had been closely following Powell and Waller, killed one of the chief's men. Deputy Governor Samuel Argall appointed William Powell as captain, responsible for the Jamestown defenses and its blockhouses, and further appointed him lieutenant governor in 1617. Powell was a member of the 1st Virginia House of Burgesses in 1619, representing James City County, Virginia. Powell lived on the Surrey side of James City County, on the south side of the James River from Jamestown, Virginia. Surrey County, Virginia was organized from this area in 1652. In 1620, Argall contracted with, or possibly even ordered, Powell to clear land and build houses for new colonists at Martin's Hundred. Powell tried to force the newcomers to pay for the work, but they were able to show this would be unjust because Argall had actually put their site in the wrong location. In April 1622, soon after the Indian Massacre of March 22, 1622, Captain Powell established, or at least secured rights to, property in order to establish a large plantation on the Chickahominy River. Richard Pace, an ancient planter, had 10 shares in this enterprise but soon ceded them to Captain Powell. William Powell himself was an ancient planter. Massacre, militia action, death, a great Native American, Indian, massacre of at least 347 of the 1,258 Virginia colonists occurred on March 22, 1622. Captain Powell, who was described as the gunner of James City County, was one of a few who received early word of the planned massacre and was instrumental in giving warning to the plantations nearest Jamestown. Most sources state that the friendly Native American, Indian, who gave warning of the impending attacks told Richard Pace of the planned attack. Since Powell and Pace lived near each other and were business associates, it appears that Pace warned Powell and that both men proceeded to warn other people in the neighborhood of Jamestown, as stated in William Stith's 1740 History of the Colony. Immediately after the attack, Powell went to Martin's Hundred to help evacuate the survivors. He took possession of the estate of Nathaniel Powell, who was killed along with his wife during the attack. It was later determined Powell was not related to Nathaniel as he had claimed. Nathaniel's older brother, Thomas Powell, succeeded to ownership of the property. Soon after beginning the Chickahominy River enterprise mentioned above, Captain William Powell was killed leading a party of militia against the Native Americans, Indians. The militia were seeking revenge for the March 22, 1622 massacre. Captain William Powell, as he is identified in the list of Burgesses, may have died in late 1622 or possibly in January 1623. A letter of January 24, 1623 from colonist John Harrison to his brother, Richard Harrison, states that Captain Powell, and others, were dead. Aftermath. In 1620, Powell and another colonist named John Smith took some land on Hog Island, which they shared with Captain Samuel Matthews. After Powell's death, in June 1625, a controversy arose between Captain Samuel Matthews, father of future Royal Governor of Virginia Samuel Matthews, and the children of Captain William Powell, deceased, over a grant of land on the south side of the James River across from Jamestown, Virginia. Matthews relinquished his claim before the end of the year. He had additional land on the north side at the mouth of the Warwick River where he established a prominent plantation known as Denby Plantation, originally known as Matthews Manor. On a date between March 4, 1626 and the end of 1628, Edward Blaney, one of James City County's burgesses in 1623, married Margaret Powell, the widow of Captain Powell. Like Powell, Blaney lived on the south side or Surrey side of James City County, across the James River from Jamestown, Virginia.